Welcome back, everybody. As always, this is Erik Brown, your Beverly Hills real estate agent, bringing you the best of Los Angeles, where I share with you cool local businesses and some of the fun things that they have to offer. And today, I actually get to introduce you to one of my partners. Her name is Holly Gustlin. She is a real estate lender. And I'm going to have Holly just dive in and talk all about her business. So Holly, I always love to ask, as we're giving a quick hello and introduction, good to see you as always. But how did you get started in the world of lending?
Well, it's interesting. I in my other life, I ran my ex-husband's medical practice. Clearly, he didn't want me to do that when I left him. So I can't blame the guy. So I learned this method called the superconscious mind method from Brian Tracy's Psychology of Achievement, where you write down the things that you want for whatever it is in the present tense positive personal format. So I have a job that allows me to keep my home. I wanted to keep my home, afford it. Okay. My time is my own. I don't need to clock in or clock out. So I had these criteria, and at the time I had no clue that this industry even existed, none whatsoever. And I'd taken these, tests, and you could be a doctor. Well, not at age 40, I can't. So just things happened, and I met someone who was in this industry. He said I'd be really, really good at it. I said, yeah, but I love science. And then he asked me to help him in his office. And I said, yeah, I'd be good at this. I actually, what I love about it is I'm wired to solve problems. Like if all you want to do is be heard and whine, I'm your worst nightmare, because all I could do is keep solving problems. But in the mortgage industry, that's mostly what I do. And I really love people. And so this really worked out well for me. It's kind of interesting turn of events.
Well, and I think people would have a guess or an expectation of you would help people get loans so they can buy houses or refinance houses. But you and I both know that is by far not even the tip of the iceberg of what you do. So right. maybe in a 10,000 foot overview summary version, talk a little bit about the special benefits of working with you and lending resources.
If it's a real estate loan, I can either get it for you or tell you a place to get it, period. Okay. I have lots of connections, decades of experience. It's all you need to do is call me with any question, scenario for a purchase or refinance or a bridge loan or construction loan or commercial, anything like that. And where I'm different from many banks is if you don't qualify right out of the gate with the bank, they'll just say you don't qualify to buy. I just don't do that. I say, well, if you're this way, you don't qualify. But if we do this and this, then you will. So a good chunk of my practice is helping position people to buy like their first home, or to help them with their credit a little bit so that they can get a better loan rate. Self-employed people, I do a big deal with self-employed people, because if you're self-employed, you're used to writing off a lot of stuff, and that's reality, right? I do too. But when you're trying to get a home loan, being that aggressive may or may not benefit you. So I do the math before my clients file the taxes so that they're sure that they can reach their goal of getting a home loan.
That's great. And you and I had talked about this a bit offline as well, but more than just maybe the loan process itself, which is there's a lot of hand-holding that can be involved. Someone's about to make a 6, 7, 8-figure decision. And so having someone there that's a pro in their corner is helpful. But it's not just the loan itself. Like we were talking offline a bit about the example of credit. So I'll let you dive into that any way that you want to, but imagine all the ways, or share some of the ways that you help people with credit.
Yeah, so I'm really frugal. I don't like to waste money, and I don't like my clients to waste money. So if I can find a way around something that costs them less, I will do that. Over the years, I've learned an awful lot about credit repair, and I wrote a several page write-up, and it's on my website, or I can send it to you if you call me, about all the tips that you can do to help keep your credit good or make it good. One example that very few people know about is the debt to credit limit ratio. For example, if your credit limit is $10,000 and you owe $1,000 or less, that's like an A+. If you owe $3,000 or less, that's an A-. If you owe over 70%, that's a D. And if you're overdraft, game over, right? It really dampens your score. So the very simple thing that people can do without any help from anybody is pay every credit card down at least to the 30% threshold, preferably the 10% threshold.
Yeah. And those types of tips are things that are baseline as far as what someone may have as kind of standardized questions. And one of the things that I've learned that you do so well is you also look at what is happening trending in the industry, what's happening with seasonality, what's happening in greater influx of the real estate world, like the world that we're in right now, where we're in a higher interest rate environment than we were before. So do you have any either really cool stories or any horror stories that
I have
sharing?
a cool story and I have a cool tip. So here it
Right.
is. I
Right.
subscribe to MBS Highway and I have for forever. And Barry Habib runs that. He got the Crystal Ball Award in real estate for 3 years. It's really, really very, very accurate. And most of the things that he tells us are going to come true. We watch the market to determine the best time to lock our clients' rates. And people often think that when the Fed raises rates, that means mortgage rates go up. In most cases, it's actually the opposite. Because when the Fed raised the rates, the goal is to cut inflation. And when inflation is capped, then people making a long-term investment do not have to build in the fact that their money will be worth a whole lot less when they finally cash in this bond. So they don't need to have it such a high yield. So when the bond market thinks, oh, good, the inflation is getting under control, our rates improve. So on November 10th, the CPI, the inflation readings for October came out, and we knew in advance rates were going to get better because we knew it's a 12-month average. And we knew that we were going to be replacing a bad number and adding a good number. And the market went crazy. My rates went down 0.3% that day. The same thing's going to happen on May 10th, most likely. The only problem with predictions is that there's so many moving pieces, but it's highly likely that rates will get better on May 10th, maybe May 11th, if it takes the lender a while to readjust. So if you have a loan in process, you might want to wait to lock it.
That was a great tip. And it's one of the things that I've enjoyed so much as we've worked together is how you're always leading with value. And so maybe touch on a few different examples, and I'll seed you a few, but like the professional organizations that you're involved, be it from people going through collaborative divorce or decoupling, or the fact that you've written a book about how to help people walk through such a challenging concept as finance, or some of the tips that you can give just through your everyday practice. Feel free to touch on any of it.
Well, I initially wrote the book before the crisis of 2007 and 8, because I was trying to protect people from the just massive dishonesty that I saw when I walked into it. I started in the industry in 2001, and I was like, what the hell? What are these people doing? Sadly, I couldn't get it published fast enough, but it's still a really good book, especially for first-time home buyers or someone just entering the United States who does not understand how the mortgage industry works. It walks you through it so that nobody can pull the wool over your eyes. That was the purpose of that. And I'm sorry, what was the next point you wanted me to make?
I talked a little bit about different organizations that you're involved with. I like how I always know that you're sharpening the saw. Like you're continuing to add skill sets and learning, and it is a direct benefit to your clients. Touch on a few of them.
Right. So one of the great benefits to my clients is how many people I know through networks, Supervisors Network and Divorce Transition Professionals Network. So if somebody's, say, unhappy with their CPA, odds are I can find them a good CPA. Obviously, I refer to good realtors like you, but I referred to you before you were a provisor's member, right? So because I met you and I thought, man, this guy's got integrity, and he's in Beverly Hills. That's kind of unusual. So I gotta get to know this guy. So that's where so really I'm always looking for more resources for my clients. And the Divorce Transition Professionals Group is a group of all professionals who help people going through that transition. Somebody who will help, let's say an older woman who never handled finances, which is very common. I have people who specifically help women who've never handled finances before their divorce, so they don't just blow up now that their husband's not taking care of their finances anymore. It's those kinds of resources that I love to be able to provide for my clients.
I think that segues really well into, I keep having this thought, and it's something that I've talked about with a number of colleagues, and I feel like I have this conversation every day and or every week. And that is the volume of people that have told me, I'm waiting for interest rates to go down before I buy, and waiting for home prices to go down before I buy. And so as a pro, when you hear that, that might be valid. Like some of it might be accurate for someone's individual situation. But I know it's not for everybody. And I'd love for you to tell everyone why you would agree or disagree with those folks.
So a few weeks ago, my son, who's positioning to buy his first home, brought a chart to me. He's all about research. I love it. He brought a chart from the Federal Reserve, Fred, that shows the median home price over time. And it did go up significantly nationwide in 2020, 2021, because rates were really low. You could afford more. And so I was very concerned because I have some of my pension money invested in fix and flips. So if we're going to have a crash, I'm the first one who wants to know about it because I don't want to lose my pension money. Okay. So I did the research, and here's the difference. I can send this to you and I can send it to anybody who calls me. Here's the difference. In 2008, when we had, when everything crashed, we had twice as many housing starts as home formations. Okay. Typically, people will want to stop renting or stop living with their parents and buy around age 33. Okay. So in 2008, go 33 years back, and that's 1973. January of 1973 is when abortion was legalized, and our birth rate went, dropped significantly and stayed low for a number of years. Well, the builders weren't thinking like that. They just kept building like crazy because everything was selling. That's why we have twice as much inventory as buyers. And that, in addition to the toxic loans that don't exist anymore, boom. And it wasn't only the mortgage industry that exploded. I mean, the whole financial world exploded. Okay. So it wasn't just us, but that's the primary reason there was such a crash in real estate values. We don't have that now. In fact, we have more household formations than we have inventory. We have about a month and a half worth of inventory out there. And the higher rates are holding things back. That being said, in some of the areas that increased substantially, the highly desirable areas, Los Angeles, San Francisco, San Diego, New York, several of the other state counties, values have been going down a little bit. Not a crash by any means whatsoever, but it's more of a normalization. But there's a limit to how much that can go down, because as soon as somebody can afford it and they want to buy their home, they're going to do it. We say you marry the house and you date the rate. So what? If you can afford that payment for 6 months or a year, we'll refinance you. Rates are going down. I'm telling you that right now. Barry was right before and he's right now, and we can see all of the signs of the recession, and that's when rates go down, is in a recession. They're going to go down. But here's the problem. If you wait until people think they can time the bottom of the market, that's impossible. The only way you know that is when it's over and when everybody's competing against you to get that house. And then good luck getting a seller concession, right? You're much better off if you find the home you love and you can afford the monthly payment, at least for a time, well, at least for now, even if you have to tighten your belt, then buy it. And I'll put you on my list of people that I'm going in order. When rates get better, we will refinance, and that's great. Another thing is that you can probably get seller concessions now. So we have a 3-2-1 buy down, a 2-1 buy down. What that means is that the seller will contribute to an escrow account, a separate escrow account, enough money to make up the difference between what your payment would be at, say, 6%, which is about where rates are around right now, or would it be at 4%? So the first year, your payment's going to be at 4%. And the next year, it'll be at 5, what your payment would be at 5%. That extra money is coming from the seller, from an escrow account. Mm-hmm. But if we refinance before that time is up, yay. That goes against the principle of your loan,
yeah,
and you win either way. So if you can buy in a time when sellers are willing to have concessions, by all means do that.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. And I feel like I have that conversation more and more, and inevitably it will stick, I think, with more fervor when people don't recognize, particularly in a market like the Los Angeles area, where when you were buying a year or so ago and you were competing against 5, 10, 15 other offers.
20, 30, yeah.
Right? Sure, you got a great rate, but you're overpaying by $100,000, $200,000 or more for the property. Now the fact that you're negotiating, you might have saved $250,000 in principal. Yes, you have an higher interest rate, but you're dating the rate. Mm-hmm. You're marrying that property, as you said.
Yes, and I do have tools that can help illustrate for each individual what it means to them. You know, if we do it this way, or if you wait, it's called a cost of waiting tool, because you're not just giving up on a home you may love to live in, and you're paying rent, and that rent is going to go up, but you're missing out on the tax deduction, you're missing out on the principal, the amortization that you're putting toward the loan, and the interest and property tax. I mean, it almost always makes sense to buy over rent when I put all the information into that tool.
Yeah. You know, you gave a tip earlier, and I'll pick your brain for maybe one more thing to be able to share. For those of you that are watching that don't know this, I'm going to give a very high overview of the lending process. So someone decides that they want to buy a home, and we'll take that instead of refinancing. And then they will submit some initial information to a pro like Holly. It'll be things like bank statements, tax returns, pay stubs, etc. And Holly will give you what's called a pre-approval. From there, and she'll do, there's a lot more moving pieces to this, of course, but she'll run her numbers and be able to tell you roughly what you qualify for. You look to buy homes. And Holly kind of walks through that whole process to make sure that you're removing any challenges or major conditions so you won't have problems that pop up either with appraisal or your ability to buy. And she'll tidy that whole package up in a nice little bow. So then when you get to the end of closing, there is no problems that will pop up. Now, Holly, there's lots of mortgage brokers that would tout that they do exactly the same thing, but they don't. And so is there a thing or two in that process, and I know there's hundreds, but one or two that someone could say, oh, wow, Holly does that?
Yeah.
Helps with that? Do you have an example or two?
Yeah, so for anyone self-employed or in the entertainment industry, I do all the math up front, and it's underwriter math, and I only know 2 other loan officers who even know how to do that. Okay, so good luck. If you walk into a bank, no chance. They would have to send it off to the underwriting department, which, if you're a high profile person there, they might do that for you. They might also just look the other way and approve it anyway. B of A is willing to do that if they really, really like you. If you have millions of dollars with them, or you're an up and coming doctor, B of A, it'll be your time. Other than that, I'm going to do the right math so there's no surprises. The most important thing in getting a home loan is making it as smooth a process as possible once you find your home and get into escrow, because that is scary for everybody, at least especially first-time home buyers. It's one of the most traumatic events in people's lives, right up there with death and divorce, okay? So I try to make sure that we've covered every little base, and often I'll pre-screen things with lenders if it's a jumbo lender and it might be something that, is slightly outside the box, so that I'm mitigating risk as much as humanly possible, because you don't want to get a call from Holly, oops, no. I mean, that's not what you want to hear when you're in escrow.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. Holly, it is always a pleasure to chat with you, and I feel like we could go on for hours. I'm going to give us a quick kind of wrap up here and say, anyone, if you would like to get a copy of Holly's book and learn a little bit more about the basic mortgage process before you're diving into these massive financial decisions, if you'd like to get some information, as you mentioned, about credit, if you'd like to see that report that she spoke of, here's all of Holly's contact information. Please, I encourage you to touch base. I say this often, but a conversation is free. A missed opportunity is not. Holly, any parting words that you'd love to share?
Yeah, the book is free too if you call me. If you go on Amazon, my publisher gets it. My former publisher, we had a falling out, they take all the money, whatever, I don't care. But the point is, I have many copies and I'll give it for free.
I love it. So as always, folks, this is Erik Brown here with Holly Gustlin, giving you the best of Los Angeles, sharing with you cool local businesses. Tune into the next time where we've got another great business to share. Otherwise, as always, this is Erik Brown, your Beverly Hills real estate agent, signing off.